Everybody. How is everybody doing? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. Thumbs in the middle. Maybe it's kind of early for summertime or there's something else, but I feel like it's a pretty great morning. It's gonna rain later, but it's looking really good outside today. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'd say I'm thumbs up. So first, before we get started with the lesson of the day, I just want everyone to do a little introduction. So if everybody could unmute, and I'll call on you one by one and just say your name and your favorite outdoor activity. So that's going to be our question of the day. So we'll start with Brooklyn, since you were first.
My name is
Brooke, and my favorite summer activity is basketball.
Is basketball? Is that what you said? Awesome. Thank you, Brooklyn. And then we've got Abraham. What's your favorite outdoor activity?
Hi, my name is Iker, or Abraham. I like to swim.
Okay, so your name's Iker. Oh yeah, I remember you. I remember you from the school year. Hi, Iker. And you like to swim. Awesome. And then I think we're the only students we have at the moment, but that's okay. So it's nice to meet you all. My name is Anna, and I think my favorite outdoor activity is gardening because it's very rewarding to plant your seeds and then see your plants grow into full plants that you can eat and make recipes out of. I think it's a lot of fun. So our outline for today is going to be, 1, we're going to do a tour of the garden. 2, we're going to talk about some basic garden care. And then 3, we're going to learn about foraging for some weeds that are growing around the garden, talk about what a weed really is, and talk about some uses that we can do with those plants. So does that sound good to everybody? Okay, awesome. So let's start with our tour. Hey. So first, I'm gonna have everybody try to guess what the plants are before I tell you what they are. So if you got your weekly packet, I put some vegetables in there last week. So does anyone remember what these are if you got one of those? And you can unmute and guess if you want to. It's a leafy green. Does anybody remember those? No? That's okay. So that is our kale, and this is called dinosaur kale sometimes because it looks like it has scales like a dinosaur. So if you get really close to the leaves, it kind of looks scaly, but it tastes just like regular kale, so it's really good. And then next to the kale, we have these different leafy greens. Does anybody know what these ones are? With these really big leaves? Anybody have a guess? Yes? No?
Mint.
What'd you say?
Mint.
One more time?
Mint.
Mint? Mint? That's a good guess. That is a leaf, but this is an even bigger leaf than mint. So this is collards. And if you got a pack of vegetables last week, there were collards in there too. So that's what this plant is right here. So moving on, this plant, I'll give you a hint. This is what we make French fries out of. So does anyone?
Potatoes.
Potatoes, good job. So this right here is actually a weed, but these leaves like this are our potatoes that are growing like that. So those will be really cool. And the way that those grow is, does anybody know? How do potatoes grow? Are they above ground or underground?
In the ground.
They are in the ground, good job. So the way this works is these green leafy plants are gonna grow up really tall, like probably like this tall. And then they're gonna get flowers on them. And once they get pollinated and the plants die back, then we can dig them up and we'll get a whole bunch of potatoes out of the ground. It's really cool. So those are potatoes. Over here, we have more potatoes. Same thing in this bed. And then moving on, does anybody know what this one is? So it grows as kind of a vine and starts with an S. The vegetable is what'd you say?
Strawberry.
No, not strawberries. Good guess. So it starts with SQ.
Oh, squash.
The squash, yep. So this is one of our squash plants right here. And that's gonna be some kind of winter squash. And then over here, we have a vegetable that starts with a T. Does anybody know this one? It's what you make ketchup out of.
Tomato.
Tomatoes, good job. Yep, so we got tomatoes right there. Let's see, let's keep going. What have I not shown you yet? Oh, here we go. Right here, here's a vegetable that starts with a C. Again. What'd you say?
Cauliflower.
What was it?
Cauliflower.
Flowers?
Cauliflower.
Cauliflower? That's a good guess, but no. It starts with C-U. So a vegetable starts with C-U. Cucumber, good job. So these cucumbers are going to grow into vines and they'll grow up this trellis that we have right here. And then we can make pickles with them or something next school year, which will be fun. And then we have one more bed that has stuff in it. This one, I intentionally left a lot of weeds in it just so that I can show you what the weeds look like. But the plant that's actually planted in here is right here. So right here, this is a vegetable that starts with a P, and it's kind of a spicy vegetable.
Pepper.
Yep, that's a pepper plant, good job. And then the last one that we have over here, and you might actually know this one just by looking at it. Does anyone know what this vegetable is?
Brussels sprouts.
Really close. It kind of looks like Brussels sprouts, but it's way bigger. It starts with a C. So it's like a giant Brussels sprout, kind of. It's in the
Celery.
same.
Celery.
No, not celery. C-A are the first two letters. C-A-B.
Cabbage.
Cabbage, there we go, good job. So this is what cabbages look like when they're growing. And we've got some green cabbages over here, and then we've got purple cabbages over here. So that is what is growing in our garden right now. It's a lot of exciting stuff that we'll be able to harvest and cook next school year. But one thing that's important to know in garden care is the difference between the vegetables that you want to keep and the weeds that you're trying to get rid of. So I think it's important to do some plant identification so that you know what your plants are and what the weeds are. And another exciting thing that I think is really cool about weeds is that you can eat a lot of them. So first, I just want to ask a discussion question. What is your definition of a weed? And you can both go. Who wants to go first? So what is a weed? Let's have Iker go first. What do you think a weed is?
Like unwanted plant, or I don't know.
No, that's actually a really good guess. So an unwanted plant. And then Brooklyn, what do you say?
I don't know. Something that's like, I don't know.
You don't know? That's okay. And then was there somebody else on here? Hunter? Do you want to guess what a weed is?
No, I don't know.
You don't know? Well, Iker, you were actually right. So don't be so unsure of yourself because that's actually the perfect definition. So the only thing that a weed is a plant that you don't want growing in that area. Because a lot of things that have been labeled as weeds are actually really healthy for you. Some of them are actually healthier than the vegetables that we eat on a day-to-day basis. So that's why I think it's so cool to be able to identify them because they just grow for free and then you can add them to your cooking and it's really cool. One important thing to note though is when you are foraging for wild plants, you want to make sure you're getting it from a pesticide-free zone. Because if you're harvesting things that have a lot of, or not pesticides, herbicides. Herbicides are the ones that kill weeds. So if you get a plant that has a bunch of herbicides on it, it's not going to be very healthy to add to your meals. But since I have all these weeds that are growing in my garden, I know that there's no herbicides on them. And so I know that I can pick them and put them in my meals. So we're gonna learn just a few of these plants that are growing that I didn't plant. So who was here? Who was in Truck Farm last year? Were either of you in, or any of you in Truck Farm last year? No? Okay, that's okay. The first one that I want to show you is one that I just personally think is cool because last year we had tomatoes planted in this spot where the collards are now. And inside the tomatoes is what? When you open a tomato, what's inside of it?
Seed.
Seeds. Yep, good job. So what happened is there were a bunch of tomatoes that didn't get harvested from the plant. The tomatoes fell to the ground and they rotted, and the seeds actually ended up planting themselves. So down here, there's like a bunch of just regrown tomatoes that are growing in our garden. So right here, if you recognize this plant, that looks just like our other tomato that's growing, but this is just replanted from a seed from a tomato that used to be right here last year. So that one I think is really cool. And then here's another one that just regrew itself. So all these ones that have these jagged leaves like this are just regrown tomatoes in our garden. And there's another one right there, and another one. They're growing everywhere, and they just replanted themselves. One of the plants that I think is really delicious actually is called lamb's quarters. And there's a lot of lamb's quarters growing in this garden bed that has our pepper. So they look like this. They grow kind of in this stalk like this. And they taste a lot like spinach. So you can actually pick them before they have flowers on them, and you can saute them or cook them in lasagna or just add them to a salad. And all of these lamb's quarters are really delicious greens that you can add to your stuff. So that's one plant. The next one is called purslane. So one note that I want to make about this plant is that it usually grows really close to another plant that looks just like it that is not edible. So you want to be really careful when you're looking for this plant. So this one right here is purslane. And you can tell it's purslane because it has kind of thick stems, kind of like succulents, and leaves that kind of look like jade plants. And then next to it is a plant that's called spurge, which also has red stems, and it also has leaves that look like this. But you can tell the difference because these stems are not as thick like succulents, and they also grow flatter to the ground, whereas purslane grows in more of a stem like that. So this is the one that you can add, and this is the one that you don't want to eat. So one cool thing about purslane is, according to some scientific studies, it actually has one of the highest amounts of omega-3s of any vegetable out in the world. So purslane is a really awesome vegetable to add to stuff.
I got a quick question for you. Is that is the purslane, was that intentionally planted, or is it just something that's just found in various places?
It's just something that's found. I think the history of it is that it was originally brought over to be a vegetable, but over the years it just got forgotten. And so now it just grows wild. So like you can see this one is just in a crack in the sidewalk. And there's some other ones growing in the garden, but I didn't plant them.
Okay.
They just grow wild. Oh, here's one right here. Yeah. So here's another purslane plant right here. It looks like this. Ooh, we've got a butterfly visiting too. That's exciting.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, so purslane, and who remembers what this one is called, just as a review? Does anyone remember? Starts with an L. Starts with an animal name that starts with an L.
Lamb. Got the
You're right with lamb. Does anyone know the second half? Some kind of coin that starts with a Q.
quarter.
Yeah, good job. Lamb's quarters. That's what that is called. And then the other one starts with a P. Who remembers this one? Starts with purse and ends with another word for a road. So it's kind of a riddle I'm giving you, I guess. So what's another word for a road or a street? That starts with an L.
You guys just heard it. It begins with a P. You just heard the, the name of it. I just answered the question.
So this is called purslane. Purslane. And this one is really high in omega-3s,
How do you
which
spell
is usually
that,
found in fish. It's P-U-R-S-L-A-N-E. Purslane.
Okay.
Which I think would be kind of a pretty name for a person someday. Purslane. Anyway, we're gonna keep walking around the garden. I think just so that I don't overwhelm you with information, I'm just gonna give you 2 more plants that are around here. So first one, I'm sure you've seen before, is this one. What is this called? That yellow flower. Someone knows it, I know for certain.
A dandelion.
Yeah, there we go. So a dandelion. And dandelions were actually also brought over here for their nutritional benefits. So you can eat the entire plant from the root to the leaves, to the stems, to the flowers. You can eat the whole thing. The flowers are really sweet, and I have dried them out and put them in cookies before, and that's really good. And if you roast the roots and put them in a tea, they help with digestion and blood pressure and stuff like that. So dandelions are really healthy plants to eat. And then the last one I'm going to show you, let's see, is right here. And this is called plantain. Has anyone ever seen this before? It grows really close to sidewalk cracks. Has anyone ever seen that before, but not known what the name was? So I'll show it to you one more time. It's right here. It's got these like broad, flat leaves that have lines that go through them like this. And these plants have historically been used to treat like skin conditions. Like if you get a bug bite, you can make this into like a poultice, like smash it up and like rub it on a bug bite, and it helps with that. Or if you have like a rash from something, it helps with that. So that is what you can make out of this. So let's see. So just to review, because these are part of your reflection questions for the week. Can somebody name one of the plants that we went over and what it helps and what you can make out of it?
Okay. I have
Let me see if I can gather them. So these are the 4 plants that we went over this week. They're blowing away, but those 4 all have different uses. Can anybody name one of them and say what the use is from it? So some of them should still be in the comments, because I know Miss White was putting some of the answers in the comments. So we've got lamb's quarters, good job. And what can we do with lamb's quarters? Do you remember I said it tastes like a certain kind of vegetable? It tastes like a different leafy green.
Spinach.
Yeah, it tastes like spinach. So you can add it to salads, you can cook it, You can put it in lasagna, I think I said. So that's what you can do with lamb's quarters. What about this one? Who remembers what this one's called? It starts with a P.
Personally,
No, not this one. This one shares its name with a fruit that looks like a banana that you get at a grocery store. So what's a fruit that looks like a banana but is not a banana? And it starts with the word plant. Not pepper, good guess. It starts with the word plant. Any other guesses? So this is called plantain. This leaf right here is called plantain. And you can find it growing along the cracks in the sidewalk a lot of the time. And what is one useful thing that you can do with plantain? Yep, good job, bug bites. So you can smash it up, rub it on a bug bite, and it'll help it be less itchy. So plantain is one. And let's just go over the last two. So what is this one again?
dandelion.
Dandelion, good job. And what is one thing that you can do with dandelions?
Eat it. Eat it fully. But I can't. Yeah, I'm allergic to those.
You're allergic to them? Well, that's good to know. It's always good to know what you're allergic to before
Eating it.
using remedies. So you can eat them. What's one other thing you can do with them? I was saying some kind of health benefit they have. So if you put them in tea, they help with, I said a couple of things. Decoration. They do make a good decoration for sure. They also help with digestion, if that's what you meant to say. And then they help with blood pressure too. And then last but not least is this one. So this is the other one that starts with a P. It starts with purse.
Purslane.
Yeah, purslane, good job. And this one is really high in a certain vitamin. So what is this one really high in? Something that you usually find in fish.
Yep.
What'd you say?
What?
I couldn't hear that. One more time. Something that starts with an O.
Omega.
Yeah, omega-3s. So purslane is really high in omega-3s. It's actually higher in omega-3 than any other vegetable that we grow in our gardens, which I think is really cool. So let's see, I think we've got maybe 5 minutes left. So does anybody have any questions about our garden? Or anything that they're excited about learning this summer? If you looked at all the lessons yet?
I want to know, when are you harvesting the collards?
I did
I
harvest
love
them.
collards.
They grew back so fast. They were in the bags last week. And they already have grown back, which I think is amazing. Because I took off all these outside leaves last week and it's just grown huge. So there can be more tomorrow if you want me to bring some.
Well, okay, so how do you harvest? I mean, like when you say harvest, is there a certain way that you pull them off the stem?
Yeah. Yes, actually. Okay, so that is a great question. Thank you for adding that. So with leafy greens like collards and kale and spinach, which we don't have growing here, but it's the same for that, you want to pick the big leaves from the bottom, because if you do that, then the middle will keep growing and the leaves from the middle will keep getting bigger, and then you can harvest it all summer. So like if we look at these collards, you see they've gotten really big, and in the middle is like tiny leaves that are still growing, and then the outside has these huge leaves. So the ones that I harvested last time, you can kind of see these spots where I harvested last time. So you just kind of pick the ones like that from the bottom, and then the middle will just keep growing more collards all summer. Same thing with kale. These have grown back like all the way. And same thing, is I picked the ones on the outside, and now it's just growing into a long stem, and these small leaves in the middle just keep getting bigger until they grow into a full leaf like that. So it's pretty cool how plants rejuvenate themselves. I think it's amazing.
So once you pull that off, Anna, that section won't grow back, or will it grow back?
That section won't grow back, but the
Okay.
whole plant will keep growing from the middle, and it'll keep growing up higher and higher.
That's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. So if anybody ever gets a chance to come up here and check out the garden, please do. It's doing really great. Oh, I actually did forget to show you a couple of plants. So you mentioned strawberries, Brooklyn, and we do actually have a lot of strawberries growing here. So all of these yellow flowers are going to become strawberries. So we have a lot of strawberries growing actually. And I don't think there's any ripe in here yet. Oh, there is actually one. We got one tiny little strawberry, but those will keep growing. Oh, and then I did actually forget to talk about these too. Sorry, I should have come over here. So these ones we planted last fall. It's a kind of bulb. And I'm gonna have everybody guess this one too. So it's a kind of bulb that you use kind of like an herb, and it starts with a G. So what's the thing that you add for flavor that starts with a G?
Ground pepper.
Ground pepper? Good guess, but no. It starts with G-A. And it kind of tastes like an onion, almost. G-A-R.
Garlic.
Garlic, awesome. Yes, so this is our garlic. And right now, it's in the phase where it has these things on top that are called scapes. So you can see the garlic plant is growing up like this. And then on top, there's this weird, like loopy thing like this. And that's called a garlic scape. And you can actually eat those. They taste like mild garlic. And you can chop them up and put them in your recipes just like you can with garlic. So it's really, I just think it's amazing how plants grow themselves. And I don't know. So I love plants. I think they're great how they just continue to regrow themselves no matter what happens. So does anyone else have other questions about the garden?
I just have a quick question for you, Anna. This is my last question for you, then I'm done.
Okay.
How did you get started doing what you're doing?
Started doing gardening?
Yeah.
Well, it was a long road. So I always really liked gardening when I was a kid, and I would garden with my grandma when I was a kid. And then my first job in education was at Completely Kids. I worked in the after school program at Completely Kids. And then after that, I worked at Lauritsen Gardens in the education department and learned a lot about plants in general. And then I eventually was just led to City Sprouts, growing vegetables, which is really amazing, I think. So I've always really liked the outdoors and gardening and growing plants and also education. So that's how I got here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see all of your faces next week, and I hope that you learned something new today. So I'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.